Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for your mighty presence here. We thank you for the gift of our Bucknell family. As we begin our journey of growth and development this academic year, we ask for your continued providence and a constant protection. May this year be a year of success, joy, and a good health of body, mind, and spirit for all of us, our families, and our parents. Help us to remember how fortunate we are to be able to study, to grow in knowledge. Give us wisdom, that we may treasure knowledge and never forget how little we know. Help us to be diligent, without undue ambition, and successful without worshiping success. Teach us to give each task its rightful place and use our talents to the best of our abilities. Make us strong against temptations, resolute before distractions, humble before the truth, and gracious to the less gifted. Give us a vision larger than our studies and greater than our individual success. Teach us to use our opportunities gratefully, develop our talents responsibly, and place our learning at the service of truth and justice. May we keep learning all through our life. Make us wise and strong, that we may learn from life itself. May our Bucknell family and all our activities prepare us to become active, joyful, grateful, and loving members of our one single human family. Amen. Please be seated. May I ask Taylor Armstrong, class of 23, the orientation coordinator, to kindly come to the podium.
Thank you. Before we start, I would just like to remind everyone that this is a masked event, so please have the proper face covering on. My name is Taylor Armstrong, and I'm the orientation coordinator. We hope you had an amazing start to your Bucknell journey. It is my honor tonight to introduce you to Provost Merman-Joswick. Provost Elizabeth Merman-Joswick is the university's chief academic officer with responsibility for integrating our living and learning environments to achieve Bucknell's main goal, to transform students through rigorous and sustained academic studies supported and enriched by co-curricular and residential experiences. The provost joined Bucknell in July of 2019, where she oversees academic and student affairs. Prior to her appointment, she served at Gonzaga University as the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences and as interim academic vice president. She worked for 19 years at Texas A&M Corpus Christi as Associate Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Haas Professor of English. She holds a PhD in English from the University of Wisconsin and an MA in English and Theology from the University of Cologne, Germany. Her publications include 2 books as well as numerous articles. Please join me in welcoming Provost Merman-Joswick to the stage.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And welcome, class of 2025, and all transfer students who are joining Bucknell for the first time. We have been waiting for you. So on Wednesday, I had the pleasure of greeting you as the Dean of Admissions passed the class on to me as Provost. And tonight, to celebrate your arrival, we participate in two other very special Bucknell traditions, the Convocation and the candle lighting. Now, the past few days may have been both fun and at times a little bit unsettling for you. You and your roommate may have been deciding how two people can coexist in such a ridiculously small place. And you may be missing your parents, your sisters and brothers, or perhaps your favorite pet. In a very real sense, you have left your family to come to Bucknell to start a new phase of your life. And today, as part of that tradition, we recognize this by formally welcoming you into the university community. And that is the meaning of convocation. A convocation is an academic assembly where you're surrounded this evening in this beautiful auditorium by Bucknell's faculty who have gathered together. And the faculty here, their presence signals their willingness to serve as your guides and mentors and to walk with you as you embark on your journey. They are here because they care about your success. And I and everyone with me, I'm sure, remembers how we were challenged to think, how we were stretched to consider new ideas, how we were also supported to strive for excellence, and how we were encouraged to pursue our aspirations when we were in your seats. As we heard from Dean Mathis during matriculation, you come to us with extraordinary gifts and talents, diverse gifts and talents, and diverse experiences. And in turn, your experience here at Bucknell will be the product of thousands of interactions, as well as choices that you make in the face of opportunities presented to you. A university is not just a place where people go to class and live in residence halls and do homework. If it works the way it's supposed to, these and other experiences converge to create a framework within which each individual nurtures a personal sense of self, grows in awareness of the work, and imagines a future full of greater freedom and possibility for all human beings. We are welcoming you here today into a community of ongoing conversation about questions that matter to you and that matter to the world in which we find ourselves. And here are my hopes for you: that you first take full advantage of all the opportunities and become part of these conversations. I invite you to be all in. And that you truly get inspired by your classes, by your work with the professors and with each other, and by interactions with the staff. And that you sustain a deep curiosity for lifelong learning. We are so glad that you have come and have allowed us to introduce you as part of the intellectual community that is the essence of this university. I wish you all the very best as you begin your educational journey at Bucknell. And I'm happy to introduce you to the platform party real quick as well. You've already met Taylor Armstrong, class of 23, our orientation coordinator, as you have Father Raja. Next is Interim Dean of the College of Engineering, Dr. Aaron Jablonski. Dr. John Brovman, Bucknell University's 17th president, and Dr. Carl Voss, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Raquel Alexander, Dean of the Freeman College of Management, Chaplain Ali, and Dr. Corlin Davis, Professor of Women and Gender Studies and Chair of the Faculty. And I would like to invite Professor Davis now to welcome you on behalf of the faculty.
Hi, everyone. I'm truly, truly happy that you're here. Faculty, as you might know, at the college level, more or less is another word for professors. We are your teachers. I was elected to the position of chair of the faculty to help ensure that faculty ideas and values are reflected inside the heart of what we all do here at Bucknell. I can tell you for sure that the very most important thing members of this university's faculty value is you yourselves. You have the utmost opportunity here to achieve an excellent and equitable education, and the faculty are here to support that aim. Education. Raise your hand if you've come to college to get an education. Good. You've come to the right place. Now, I invite you to just take a moment and close your eyes and take a deep breath in and out. Keep your eyes closed and bring up an image of what education means to you. Take a mental note of the image you just conjured. It's going to be very important for you to understand what your starting assumption is about the meaning of education. A central aspect of getting an education, undoubtedly, is figuring out what you want your education to be for. I wonder if you've ever thought about what education is for. There are lots of possibilities. Education could be aimed at ensuring you have the right skills for the labor market. It could be aimed at making us all into same-thinking automatons. It could be designed to empower you to understand better how things work, enabling you to have greater impact in the decisions that shape our lives, or to help advance us toward a more socially just world. Education could help you avoid growing up for a bit longer. Or it could help you grow into exactly the kind of person you want to be, or into some other person you didn't realize you wanted to be. Oddly, it might even do more than one of these at the same time. Over 40 years ago, feminist poet and essayist Adrienne Rich offered a convocation speech just like this is a convocation, only at Douglas College, then the Women's College of Rutgers University. This was the 1970s, a time when many women in Adrienne Rich's audience might have been the first woman in their families to go to college. In her speech, Rich drew a distinction between receiving an education and claiming an education. Rich argued that claiming one's education, especially for women in that historical moment, meant taking responsibility for oneself. She emphasized clear thinking, active discussion, and the mindset and imaginative capacity to weigh new ideas rather than stick to perspectives with which one grew up. This idea of claiming an education, radical for its time, is arguably even more important today, where our perspectives seem to echo in online chambers that take deliberate and sustained effort to get out of. The key to claiming your education, I think, is for you to create the space to be able to reflect periodically on what you want your education to do. Creating that space is somewhat countercultural. We tend to try to fill up all of our time, but I encourage you to take some space for reflection. The great Denzel Washington reminds us, just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean you're getting a lot done. If you grew up with others around you most of the time, you probably already have a sense for how you create space for yourself. We, your academic advisors, as well as other trusted staff and peers you meet along the way, are here to support and guide you in such periodic reflection. We are not here to tell you what to do. We are here to help you discern what you want to do and then support you in figuring out some steps to take toward that goal. Again, from Denzel, dreams are just dreams without a goal. I can remember how nervous I was the first time I sat down for a chat with one of my college professors. I wish that someone had told me then that one of the things most of us professors like best is to get to know our students one-on-one. We want to know what makes you tick. As I beseech you at matriculation, please never hesitate to reach out to us. You can always bring a friend for moral support if that makes the difference in getting you through the door. This, too, is part of claiming your education. 4 years from now, nearly every one of you will have received a diploma. This diploma, coming from the esteemed institution of Bucknell, is quite likely to serve you well. While you will have received your diploma, my most fervent hope is that you will have also, in your own unique way, taken on the greater risks, challenges, and rewards of claiming your education. And because I cannot help myself, just one more bit of advice to you from Mr. Washington. Denzel advised, fall down 7 times and get up 8. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. Say that last one more time. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. So go get your education, and we'll see you in class.
Well, good evening, members of our distinguished faculty and staff, and a special welcome to our families who may be watching live stream through Facebook. It's the first time we've done this. And welcome especially to Bucknell University's class of 2025 and our new transfer students. This is the 12th convocation address I have delivered as president of Bucknell, and I have never felt so grateful to stand before an incoming group of students in my life. Never. After all the separation and distancing of the last 18 months, I am privileged to join you in person at this pivotal moment in your lives. It fills me with hope to look out over your assembled class and consider the talent, the curiosity, the intellect, and the boundless potential you are poised to develop as you seek to become the very best version of yourselves, the version that only you get to define. One of the highlights of a career in higher education is being able to greet new students with a sense of not only who they are, but also who they can become. Despite the hardships and struggles of the last year and a half and the uncertainty of what lies ahead, I am, despite it all, filled with confidence and optimism about our future and your future together. And that is in no small part thanks to you. I see how determined you are to persevere through this trying time, no matter how long it may last. I see how undaunted in making the most of the opportunities available to you at Bucknell, opportunities made possible by the faculty and staff of this university. Years from now, I see you going off to accomplish the extraordinary, proving to the world that you are the generation marked by the pandemic, but not defined by it. I know it's not been easy. It's not been easy here, and it's not been easy for you wherever you have spent the last years of your life. And I'm sure hard moments still await us. I'm hopeful that you've all found sources of strength and inspiration to turn to when circumstances may seem overwhelming. For me, I have always tried to find perspective by thinking about the past, and in particular my father's generation, which came of age during the Second World War. He enlisted the day after Pearl Harbor. Unlike many conflicts today, that war touched nearly every home in America. If you weren't among the more than 16 million Americans called to serve in the military, you were supporting the war effort by rationing food and materials that were in short supply at home. This rationing was not a voluntary effort. Families were given ration books containing limited ration points. If you wanted to purchase essential items such as meat or coffee or shoes, you not only paid for them, but you also had to turn in a mandatory number of points from your ration book. Coastal communities had the additional sacrifice of hiding in darkness for most of the war. Homeowners and businesses within 16 miles of the Atlantic coast had to dim their lights at night, so U-boats could not use the illumination to spot the silhouettes of ships hugging the coastline for safety. Cars driving in the direction of the ocean at night had to rely only on their parking lights to see the road ahead. Road signs read, "Dim out area by order of the War Department." The simple act of leaving on your porch lights came with a penalty of up to a year in jail and a fine of $5,000, more than Bucknell's tuition of the day. Now, overcoming the challenges of World War II was not simply left to an often unknown few. The responsibility rested with everyone. And so it is today, here, that our collective actions as a university, only our collective actions, will define our success or mark our struggles. Now, I share this history with you not to minimize or downplay our own trials. As a father of 4 who are at different stages of their own journeys, I have tremendous empathy for how uniquely disruptive the pandemic has been at this stage of your lives. However, history teaches us that while we are the ones who are facing this exceptional, historic challenge, we are not the first to live our lives in extraordinary times. We should all take comfort in that. I understand that it can be difficult to relate to young adults from past generations. In our minds, we might see them as a little older, even when they were the same age. Maybe we think they were more hardened to hardship somehow, or somehow distinctly of their own time. Yet those who came before us were remarkably like us in many ways, just as they were remarkably like you. And that fact holds true even among those who also came of age during the most trying periods of history. Now, one example that hits close to home for the Bucknell community concerns a young woman of the World War II era who endured far more than just rationing. She was a prisoner in her own land. She was an American citizen. Her name was Dorothy Sakasagawa. Dorothy was one of 10 children of Japanese immigrants who settled in California and lived as farmers. Their lives were relatively quiet until February 19, 1942, when President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. That order deemed those of Japanese descent to be a national security threat and forced more than 100,000 Japanese Americans into relocation camps. These camps were constructed in remote areas and surrounded by high fences and watchtowers. Many of those imprisoned were given just a few days' notice of their forced move and told to bring only what they could carry. Dorothy's family was first sent to the Salinas rodeo grounds and made to live in horse stalls. She then moved to the Colorado River Relocation Center in Poston, Arizona. There, families made their own mattresses upon arrival, stuffing straw into sacks, and lived in poorly constructed barracks that let the desert below in. It was here, trapped in these austere conditions, where Dorothy was forced to complete her junior and senior years of high school. Now, according to her daughter, Dorothy was not quick to express resentment over her time in camp. However, She was known to speak quite glowingly of how her life changed in 1944 when she was permitted to leave Poston to attend Bucknell University. We are fortunate to have a letter Dorothy wrote during her first year at Bucknell to her high school principal. The return address reads 216 Larison Hall, which is home to students to this day. Brooke and Marissa are sophomores. Despite the ordeal of her confinement, Dorothy Lee's letter reads remarkably like the messages some of you might send home soon, or perhaps already have. Dorothy writes that her first semester grades were good, but not great. She's trying to apply herself more in the second half of the year. She noted that finals were coming up in a few weeks, adding with the exclamation point included, "Ugh." I had no idea that people used "ugh" way back when. At the start of the year, she said she was nervous and lonely, but soon found her friendship circle. She wrote that she loved getting to know other students, staying up late in the dorms, and sharing midnight snacks over conversations. She called this bonding an education in itself. In the end, she told her former principal, "I wouldn't trade Bucknell for anything." For 175 years, emerging adults just like you have arrived at Bucknell, wondering what life at this university would hold for them. None experienced the exact circumstances we face today, but many overcame their own exceptional challenges, just like I know all of you will. Think of the class of 1865 who attended Bucknell during the bloody years of the Civil War. More than 620,000 American lives were lost during those students' time on this campus. In their final year, they read the news that President Lincoln had been assassinated. Those Bucknellians entered the world just as the country was grappling with how we could reunite, heal, and move on. And that makes me think of Edward McKnight Brawley, who became Bucknell's first African-American graduate in 1875. He earned his education during the early days of Reconstruction and just 12 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, a work which, as we know, is still incomplete. You will find a bust of Edward outside the Vaughan Literature Building. It sits on a pedestal engraved with the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who spoke on our campus on April 23, 1958. Almost exactly 10 years later, the class of 1968 saw the civil rights leader murdered during their time as students. Those students were seniors in high school when President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, and they were just going off into the world when his brother was violently taken from us too. That class was also here on campus on March 7, 1965, when peaceful protesters crossing a bridge in Selma, Alabama, were met with brutal, unjust force on the other side. As a child of that era, I can tell you how difficult it was to shake the feelings of uncertainty about the world at that time. I also think of the class of 2005. They came to Bucknell at a time when our nation wasn't at war. They arrived on campus not fearing terrorism or foreign attack. Then, just weeks into their first semester, they were sitting in the very classrooms in which you will soon sit, and they were getting ready for their days in the very dorm rooms you will return to tonight. And they watched as the terrorist attacks of 20 years ago, this September 11th, forever changed the world they and we knew and know. In a few weeks' time, we will gather to mark this event. So yes, we are living in extraordinary times, but we are not the first. And like those before us, we and you, and most particularly, are not alone. Coming of age in periods of hardship, beginning your Bucknell journey under circumstances that are more challenging than they ought to be, does not absolve us from looking at this world and asking ourselves, what can I learn from all of this? And what part can I play in making it better? Now, while we want your Bucknell experience to be filled with joy and memories that you will carry for a lifetime, and I assure you that it will, your time here is not meant to be a haven from the problems of the world. We are here. Our faculty and staff are here. You are here to prepare you to help solve the problems of the world. Even more, we are here, all of us, to enrich the world. Every dark moment is an opportunity to create light. You were selected for this distinguished class because of your track record of accomplishments and your promising potential. For the next 4 years, you will learn from faculty and staff who are teachers, mentors, and practitioners of the highest standing. And in case someone hasn't told you, this has been the most competitive class in our history. If you aren't prepared to take on the hard challenges, then who will be? If you don't see yourselves as capable of changing the world, then who will? Bucknell will ready you to be proactive, thoughtful, and productive citizens, not simply by equipping you with facts and skills, but by generating the wisdom and well-rounded thinking that comes only with a liberal arts education. The individuals and leaders who will be best equipped to handle the interconnected challenges of our global community will be those who can think broadly, who aren't bound to siloed disciplines, who go about their work with great care and consideration of the larger world around them, and who do so with humility about who they are and insight regarding those around them as well as around the world. We develop accountants with a love for poetry, artists intrigued by history, and engineers inspired by the natural world. We encourage minds who are equally interested in traveling to distant lands, navigating the expanses of the digital world, and exploring the rich collection of books in Bertrand Library. Yes, honest to goodness, hard copy books. In my opinion, they are irreplaceable. Ask my wife, she's sitting over here. We have over 5,000 in our house. The Bucknell community also generates servant leaders who display humility, compassion, and selflessness on their journeys to success. Living in trying times does not relieve us of these responsibilities, and history has shown that even the toughest of circumstances has not limited Bucknellians from making a difference in the world. In fact, it provides rich opportunities to rise to the occasion and demonstrate just who we are, who each of us is. Again, every dark moment is an opportunity for each of us to create light. After Brawley graduated from Bucknell in 1875, he rose above the expectations for Black Americans of his era, going on to serve as president of Selma University and Morris College, which he helped found. Dorothy Sakasagawa spent her first year at Bucknell bravely speaking to churches, all white churches and all black churches, because pretty much that's all there was, to share her story as a Japanese American living in an internment camp. She was terrified standing behind the pulpit, but she forced herself to overcome her fears. She described the experience writing, "I think it is through these relationships that all of us will have a better understanding of each other." She also wrote, "By majoring in sociology, I hope to do my share in helping others." She was connecting her studies here at Bucknell to her life ahead in service of others. Indeed, after graduation, she traveled to Holland to help the region recover from the devastation of the war. In the immediate aftermath of September 11th, the students here rallied around one another. They huddled in each other's dorm rooms, bonded with fellow students they might not otherwise have gotten to know, and traveled in packs to make sure everyone was left alone at such a dark time. Even before people were ready to return to learning, students and instructors gathered in classrooms just to share their feelings and check in with one another. We persevered through that time because we persevered together. That in-person connection was so critical, And that's why we wanted you all here this year. I can't help but wonder if we would be there for each other in quite the same way today, or if we would desperately try to find that support system through social media, likely in vain. Now, I have no bones about it. I'm a total techno gearhead who spent 35 years as an engineer in Silicon Valley, and so I've often used my convocation remarks to marvel at the advancements in technology. But I believe that with all we have gained from our smart devices and digital lives, and we've gained a lot, we are also losing a richness that we risk never getting back. I urge you strongly to invest in in-person connections during your time here. That investment will not only strengthen your wellness in tough times, but it will contribute to your development as conscientious citizens, as better friends, and quite honestly, as more accomplished individuals. Now, many of us have been guilty of counting down the days of this pandemic, even though we cannot be sure when it will end. My colleagues will tell you that I'm particularly guilty of this, as I seek to inject a bit of levity now and then. I know, for instance, that it's 110 days until the last day of this semester, and 1,366 days until you graduate. As a consequence, however, in all seriousness, we have reinforced in ourselves the idea that this is a time in our lives to simply outlast, to wait out, to just get through. It's a natural feeling. But let's fight against that. Let's be sure to focus on the present, what happens here, and what we can do with it starting here and now tonight. You are embarking on a time in your life that will be unlike any other. You're sitting in a new place, but it will soon grow to feel like home. You are surrounded by a sea of strangers who will quickly become a community. Within this community, you will develop deep and lasting friendships. In time, some of those friendships will fall away, but I am certain that many will last a lifetime and in fact deepen over the years. One of my very closest friends is someone I met on day one of my first year in college, which, by the way, was 16,775 days ago. As you return to your dorms tonight, you will walk some of the same pathways that students have walked for 175 years. Students who have become elected leaders, activists, novelists, scientists, professional athletes, leaders of faith communities, and technology visionaries. Over the next 4 years, you will accomplish what you did not think was possible. You will encounter challenges and find ways to overcome them. You will discover new passions, set new goals, and be inspired to pursue new dreams. You will be offered the opportunities, experience, and resources to grow into the very best versions of yourselves. Oh yes, at times you will stumble and even fall. Well, we're here for that too, but only if you see us as partners in the precious and unique work in progress known as you. At this moment, at this incredibly special one-time moment in your life, you are not on a set path. You are free to dream. You are free to explore. You are free to discover. And most important of all, you are free to create who you want to be. Spend your time at Bucknell counting the days up, not down. Live in the present. Understand the past. Challenge yourself to contribute to the greater good in the future ahead. I know I join my colleagues in saying, I cannot wait to see what you accomplish. Welcome again, class of 25 and transfer students. Ray Bucknell! I'm looking for a green or a red signal. Green. We are going to candle lighting. At this time, though, however, please stand for the benediction. Following the benediction, the stage party will leave, and you will then follow us out.
I begin in the name of God, Allah, the giver of mercy and the giver of compassion. The great prophet of Allah, Muhammad, once said that those who go out into pursuit of knowledge are like warriors on the battlefield. An American philosopher, Alan Bloom, said that education is the movement from darkness to light. As warriors on the battlefield of life, your darkness, our darkness, is ignorance. Our darkness is a lack of empathy, a lack of connection. As you begin your educational journey, as you begin that battle against yourselves, in a challenging world, at a challenging time, my closing prayer for you and for all of us is that God the Almighty give us light in this sea of darkness. That you're all successful in making this difficult transition and are illuminated with knowledge, not just from your classrooms, but from your interactions and from your own internal reflections. May you find light as we navigate a global pandemic, a pandemic that has taught us how we are connected as a global community. May you find light in new relationships and form close bonds with those who were once strangers, and close bonds with those who inspire you, and with those you may be able to inspire. May you find light in the experiences that challenge you, and in the joys and interactions that give you ease. May your days here at Bucknell be filled with light, and may that light become brighter every day, until one day you become a light for others. May the light you gain illuminate and elucidate and inspire hope. Hope for better days. Hope for the health and well-being of your family, your friends, and this community. May you be inspired to maintain and uplift hope in your classrooms, in your families, and to those in our communities and our societies desperately looking for hope. May each and every one of you be representatives of that light, better representatives of this university as you go into the world and illuminate your workplaces and make a better world for all of us. I pray in the name of the Lord, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Thank you.